Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. What would happen if, starting today, you stopped comparing, stopped gossiping, stopped watching the lives of others like a spectator at a game you're not even playing? What would happen if you turned all that attention inward? The truth is simple but powerful. The key to your progress is not out there. It's not in what they're doing. It's not in their wins or their losses. It's not in their timeline. It's in you. Every day we are bombarded with images, updates, achievements, and highlight reels of other people's lives. On social media and conversations in the workplace, we see who's doing what, who's getting ahead, who's buying what, and who's being celebrated. And slowly, almost without realizing it, we start to look outward more than we look inward. We begin to measure our own progress by the pace and position of others. We compare their wins to our waiting seasons, their results to our efforts, their visibility to our silence. But here's the truth. The more you compare, the more you lose focus on what you are here to do. Comparison is not only the thief of joy, it's the thief of clarity, direction, and energy. It turns your mind into a mirror that reflects someone else's life instead of your own. You begin to question your journey. You start to doubt your timing. You second-guess your decisions. And all the while you drift further away from your purpose because your attention is split and your vision is blurred. Comparison is deceptive. It makes you think you're behind when really you're just on a different track. It tells you that you're lacking when all you need is time and consistency. It makes you feel like your pace is slow when in truth it's steady. And in that mindset, you stop planting seeds and start staring at someone else's harvest. But no garden grows by watching another bloom. Your life, your success, your peace, they're all cultivated in the soil of personal focus. When you constantly look at others, you train your brain to seek validation externally. You begin to crave applause before you even finish your work. You start measuring your worth based on likes, followers, praise, or comparison-based benchmarks. But here's what you need to understand. When your focus is on others, your actions are no longer rooted in your truth. You begin to chase things because others have them, not because you genuinely want or need them. You lose the alignment between who you are and what you do. Focusing on others can also feed insecurity and doubt. You start to think, if they've already done it, why should I try? Or they're so much further ahead, what's the point? That mindset kills momentum. It stops dreams before they've even been given a chance to grow. It convinces people to settle, to give up, to shrink, when in reality the only thing they needed was to stop looking around and start looking within. When you turn your attention inward, something shifts. You begin to see your own potential clearly. You start noticing where you can grow, what you can improve, and what truly matters to you. You start setting goals based on your values instead of someone else's standards. You begin to take responsibility for your own progress, regardless of what others are doing. And that's when real transformation begins. Not when you chase someone else's dream, but when you commit to building your own. Your focus is one of your most powerful tools. Wherever it goes, your energy follows. If your focus is scattered across 10 people's lives, your energy is divided. Your drive is weakened, your direction is uncertain. But when your focus is fully on yourself, on your growth, your mindset, your next step, that energy becomes magnetic. You begin to move with clarity. You make decisions based on who you want to become, not based on what others have achieved. It's not about being selfish, it's about being self-aware. When you focus on yourself, you gain control over your time, your thoughts, and your goals. You start to realize what fulfills you and what drains you. You become more intentional with your actions. You become more present in your journey, and you begin to trust that your timing, your path, and your potential are all unfolding exactly as they should. Many people spend years watching others live boldly while they remain stuck in hesitation, not because they lack ability, but because they've spent so long focused on everyone but themselves. You can't create your best life with half your mind wrapped up in someone else's story. You have to bring your full attention to your own. That means tuning out the noise, letting go of envy, releasing the need to measure up to people who may not even be walking the same direction as you. Focus is a discipline. It's not just about ignoring distractions. It's about choosing every day to prioritize your purpose over popularity, your growth over gossip, your vision over validation. It's about reminding yourself over and over again that your energy belongs to your own evolution, not someone else's spotlight. No two lives are the same, and no two paths will ever look identical. From the moment we're born, we are placed into different environments with unique challenges, values, opportunities, and influences. Each person's life is shaped by a complex mix of circumstances, choices, timing, and even luck. And yet, despite all of this, we often fall into the trap of expecting our progress to mirror someone else's. We see others achieving milestones, graduations, promotions, relationships, wealth, and we start to wonder if we're falling behind. But falling behind only exists when you believe there's a single timeline everyone is supposed to follow. The truth is, there is no universal map for success or happiness. Some people rise quickly, only to fall just as fast. Others build slowly, quietly, and steadily and reach their peak years later. Some discover their purpose early in life, others find it after decades of searching. None of these paths are better or worse. They are simply different. And because of that, trying to measure yourself against someone else is not only unfair to you, it's also completely meaningless. You were not born to follow a template. You were not placed on this earth to be a copy of someone else. Your experiences, your lessons, your timing, they are all tailored to you. That means the challenges you face are not proof of failure. They are part of the preparation for the life you're meant to live. The delays you experience are not punishments. They are part of the process that's shaping your character, your resilience, and your strength. Every step you take, even the ones that feel like detours, is moving you closer to the version of you that is capable of holding the life you're building. When you try to compare your journey with someone else's, you forget that you're only seeing the surface of their story. You don't see the fears they hide, the failures they endure, the compromises they make. You don't see the nights they couldn't sleep or the doubts they carry in silence. Comparison is built on the illusion of perfection, and when you hold yourself up against that illusion, you begin to resent your own reality. You begin to believe that where you are is not enough, simply because someone else appears to be further along. But distance is not the measure of value. Someone being ahead of you in one area doesn't mean you're behind in life. You might be ahead in healing, in patience, in self-awareness, in emotional growth. These things can't be shown on a resume or a feed or a timeline, but they matter. They shape the quality of your relationships, the depth of your peace, and the clarity of your decisions. Just because your wins aren't loud doesn't mean they're not significant. Just because your pace is slower doesn't mean it's not steady and strong. The danger of thinking everyone should be on the same path is that it pressures people into rushing decisions, chasing validation, and forcing outcomes that aren't meant for them. People end up in careers they hate, relationships that drain them, and lifestyles that don't reflect who they truly are, all because they were trying to keep up. But keeping up with others often means falling behind on yourself. You lose connection with what you want, what you value, what actually brings you meaning. And then you wake up one day and realize you've been living someone else's life instead of your own. The more you embrace your uniqueness, the more peace you begin to feel. You stop being anxious about timelines and start being intentional about your direction. You stop comparing achievements and start focusing on alignment. You begin to ask deeper questions. What do I truly want? What makes me come alive? What kind of life feels right for me? Not for the world, but for me. Those questions lead to a life of authenticity. They help you build from the inside out instead of molding yourself to fit someone else's frame. Every person is running a different race. Some run fast and burn out. Others walk with purpose and arrive stronger. Some take detours and discover things that others never see. Some stumble early but finish strong. The pace doesn't matter if the destination is right. And even more important, your destination might not even be on someone else's map. You may be called to do something that's never been done in your family, your community, your industry. You may be carving a path that doesn't have footprints yet. That's not failure, that's leadership, that's vision. That's courage. You owe it to yourself to honor your own timing, to listen to your own voice, to trust that your life is unfolding the way it's meant to, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's. You're not behind, you're not late, you're not lost. You are simply on your path, at your pace, with your purpose pulling you forward every step of the way. Success, as it's often portrayed, is loud. It's shown in big announcements, public celebrations, high follower counts, flashy possessions, and the spotlight of recognition. But true success, real, lasting, deeply rooted success, is quiet. It doesn't need to shout because it's busy working. It doesn't need applause because it's driven by purpose. It doesn't need a stage because it's built in the background, in the moments when no one is watching. Real success is not found in the posts that go viral or in the awards that are displayed. It's found in the early mornings when the alarm goes off and you choose discipline over comfort. It's found in the nights where you stay up a little later, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're committed to mastering your craft. It's in the books you read, the decisions you make when no one's looking, and the small wins you accumulate one step at a time. There is a quiet dignity in showing up for your goals every day, especially when there's no one clapping for you yet. The world loves results, but real success is rooted in process, and the process, more often than not, is invisible to others. People don't see the sacrifices, the skipped outings, the lonely hours spent practicing, researching, building. They don't see the doubts you overcome, the failures you learn from, the inner battles you fight and win. That's why it's easy for people to misunderstand or underestimate you. But that's okay, because when your success is real, you don't need to explain it. The results, when they come, will speak for themselves. There's something powerful about moving in silence, about building something meaningful without broadcasting every step. It keeps you grounded. It keeps your intentions pure. You stop doing things for likes or validation, and you start doing them because they're aligned with your purpose. You stop chasing attention and start chasing excellence. You realize that real progress doesn't need an audience. It needs consistency, effort, and time. The noisy kind of success, the one built on trends, shortcuts, and popularity, might come fast, but it fades just as quickly. It's unstable because it's not rooted in anything solid. It's performative. It's driven by the desire to be seen, not the desire to become. But the quiet kind of success is different. It's slow, steady, and often invisible in its early stages. It's built on values, character, and integrity. It may not get you instant recognition, but it will earn you long-term respect. And that kind of success doesn't disappear. It compounds. When you focus on building real success, your priorities shift. You stop trying to prove yourself to others and start proving yourself to yourself. You focus on improving a little bit every day. You start asking, what can I learn, instead of what will they think? You become more patient with your journey because you understand that nothing great is built overnight. You start to trust the process, even when the progress is slow, even when no one is watching, because deep down you know that quiet progress is still progress. There's also a peace that comes with quiet success. You don't have to keep up appearances. You don't have to constantly perform or protect an image. You can focus on doing the work, not just talking about it. You can make mistakes, learn, pivot, and grow without the pressure of public judgment. You're free to evolve at your own pace in your own way. And in that space, you develop not just skills and achievements, but character and wisdom. The world may never fully understand the depth of your commitment, the quiet battles you fought, or the resilience it took to keep going when things were hard. But that doesn't make your success any less real. In fact, it makes it more meaningful. Because you weren't doing it for the world, you were doing it for the version of you that you're becoming, for the vision you carry, for the legacy you want to leave. True success doesn't rush. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need to be seen to be strong. It is built patiently, brick by brick, in quiet corners of discipline and determination. It happens in the silence of early mornings, in the reflection of late nights, and in the unwavering commitment to show up every single day. It grows beneath the surface before it ever blooms in public. In a world that constantly pushes competition, comparison, and rivalry, the idea of simply creating can feel almost rebellious. From a young age, we're taught to measure ourselves against others, grades, ranks, titles, trophies. As we grow, that mindset often deepens. We start to believe we're in a race, constantly needing to outdo someone else, to move faster, earn more, be seen more. But competition, while it may push us temporarily, often pulls us away from our most authentic selves. It places our focus outside rather than inside. It makes us reactive instead of intentional. And over time, it can drain the joy and meaning from the very things we once loved. When you focus on creating instead of competing, everything begins to shift. You stop trying to outperform others and start trying to express what's real within you. You stop chasing validation and start chasing vision. You begin to do things not because they'll help you win, but because they matter to you, because they align with who you are and what you want to leave behind. Creation is expansive. It opens doors. It invites possibility. It isn't limited by someone else's success or confined by someone else's timeline. It's about building, not beating. Creating is not just about art or content. It's about building a life, a mindset, a presence that is deeply your own. Whether you're writing a book, starting a business, designing a project, raising a family, or shaping your character, these are all acts of creation, and they come from within, not from the pressure to match someone else's path. Creation doesn't come from fear, it comes from clarity. It doesn't rush, it doesn't compare, it simply grows. The energy of competition can feel urgent and stressful. It's fueled by scarcity, the idea that if someone else succeeds, you lose. But the energy of creation is abundant. It believes there's room for everyone. It knows that someone else's win doesn't threaten your potential. In fact, when you're in a creative mindset, other people's success can inspire you instead of intimidate you. You can cheer them on without feeling less. You can learn from them without copying. You can be rooted in your own path and still appreciate theirs. When you spend too much time competing, you can lose your sense of direction. You start making choices based on what others are doing, not what feels right to you. You chase trends, not truth. You rush toward milestones that don't even hold meaning for you, just to feel like you're keeping up. But when you step back and return to a space of creation, you reconnect with what actually matters. You remember your reason. You move with intention. You define success on your own terms, and that definition becomes your compass. Creation allows you to grow at your own pace. It makes room for exploration, mistakes, and reinvention. You don't have to get it all right the first time. You don't have to have the perfect plan. You just have to begin. And once you do, once you start creating from a place of purpose instead of pressure, you tap into a different kind of momentum. A quiet, steady force that keeps moving you forward, not because of who's watching, but because you believe in what you're building. Competing can easily become about proving others wrong. Creating is about proving something to yourself. It's deeply personal. It's about bringing ideas to life that no one else could because they come from your unique experience, your unique voice. No one else sees the world quite like you do. That perspective is a strength. That originality is your gift. When you create from that place, what you build can't be replicated. It carries your signature, your spirit, your vision. The most fulfilled people are rarely the ones obsessed with beating others. They're the ones deeply immersed in what they love. They're the ones who've built something from the ground up and know every inch of the journey. They're not trying to prove their worth. They're living it. They're not looking sideways, they're focused forwards. They understand that what they create has the power to outlast applause, to outshine temporary comparison, and to outlive short-lived competition. When you create, you don't need to wait for someone to step aside. You don't need permission or a title or a gate to open. You build your own path. You make space where there was none. You start movements, shift narratives, and change lives. Not always with volume, but with vision. Creation is where legacy lives. It's where fulfillment is found. It's where your truest self gets to lead, not follow. In a world full of distractions and constant comparisons, it's easy to forget the one person you're truly in competition with, yourself. The noise around you can be overwhelming. You see people achieving things you haven't yet touched, reaching places you dream of, and making progress that feels faster than yours. It's tempting to let that noise become your focus, but when your eyes are always on someone else's path, you lose sight of your own. You forget that the real measure of growth is not how you stack up against others, but how you've evolved compared to who you were yesterday. Becoming better than you were is the foundation of real success. It's a quiet, personal kind of competition. There are no cheering crowds, no trophies, no rankings. Just you, looking back at the person you used to be and deciding to be a little stronger, a little wiser, a little more disciplined, a little more honest. That's the real race. That's where growth lives. When you focus on outgrowing your past self instead of outperforming others, your progress becomes meaningful. It's no longer about being the best in the room. It's about being the best version of you. Every day is a new opportunity to take one step forward. It might not be dramatic. It might not be noticeable to anyone else, but it matters. That one small habit you stuck to, that one moment you stayed calm instead of reacting, that time you followed through when it would have been easier to quit. Those are the victories that build confidence. Not because they impress others, but because they prove to you that you're growing. And growth that comes from within is the kind that lasts. When you compete with yourself, your goals become more aligned with your values. You stop chasing goals that look good on paper and start setting goals that feel right in your soul. You get clear about what matters to you, not what's trendy or expected or impressive, but what genuinely fulfills you. And from that place of clarity, your path becomes more focused. You stop trying to take every opportunity and instead pursue the right ones. You learn to say no to things that don't serve your future self. That kind of discipline is a sign of progress too. This kind of competition doesn't demand perfection. It allows space for failure because you understand that setbacks are part of the journey. If your only goal is to be better than others, failure feels like defeat. But when your goal is to grow from where you were, failure becomes information. It teaches you something valuable. It shows you where to adjust, where to be more patient, where to put in more work, and when you learn from it, you're already ahead of the version of yourself that didn't know better. One of the greatest shifts that happens when you compete with yourself is that your confidence becomes real. When your confidence becomes real, it's not based on status, titles, or comparisons. It comes from knowing your own effort, seeing your own progress, and holding yourself accountable. You stop needing people to tell you you're doing well. You can feel it. You know how far you've come. You know what it took to get here. And because of that, you stand taller, not with arrogance, but with grounded self-respect. It's also freeing. You no longer feel threatened by other people's success. You can celebrate them without questioning your worth. You can admire their progress without doubting your own. That inner peace allows you to stay focused. It keeps you from getting pulled into unnecessary drama or distraction. It keeps you centered on what you can control, your actions, your choices, your mindset. That's where your power is. Every person is working through things you can't see. Everyone has struggles, doubts, fears they don't show. So when you make yourself the benchmark, you're choosing a more honest measurement. You know your own story. You know your setbacks, your starting points, your sacrifices. And because you know those details, you can accurately assess what progress looks like for you. You can define success in a way that honors your reality instead of living under someone else's standards. Some days your progress will be fast. Other days it will be barely noticeable. But the goal stays the same, to be just a bit better than you were yesterday. Stronger, kinder, smarter, more focused, more self-aware. That's the kind of growth that builds real momentum. It's not flashy, but it's powerful. It's not competitive in the traditional sense, but it's deeply motivating. It keeps you moving forward, not because you're trying to win, but because you're trying to be. When you begin to focus on yourself instead of others, a quiet but powerful transformation takes place. Your energy, which was once scattered across comparisons, distractions, and outside expectations, begins to return to you. Suddenly, your attention is no longer being pulled in every direction. You stop obsessing over what others are doing, what they have, where they're going, and how fast they're getting there. Instead, you turn inward. You begin to notice what you need, what you want, and what truly matters to you. That shift is where personal power begins. When you focus on yourself, you begin to reclaim your time. So much of people's energy is wasted watching others live their lives, scrolling through updates, analyzing someone else's wins, wondering if you're behind, and constantly checking to see if you measure up. But none of that moves you forward. It only drains you. It pulls you out of alignment. But when you redirect that attention to your own goals, to your own mindset, to your own daily choices, you start to gain momentum. You start to see real progress, not because the world slowed down, but because you finally decided to stop chasing it and start building from where you are. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean ignoring the world or being selfish. It means being selective with your energy. It means understanding that not everything deserves your attention. It means protecting your mental space like it's sacred, because it is. You only have so much time in a day, so much emotional bandwidth, so much mental clarity. When you give it away to things that don't feed your growth, you rob yourself of the power to create the life you want. When you keep that energy close, when you use it with intention, it multiplies. It fuels your habits, your mindset, your goals. It gives you the clarity to move with purpose. This kind of focus also builds self-trust. The more you tune out the noise and listen to yourself, the more confident you become in your own decisions. You start to hear your own voice more clearly. You no longer need constant advice, reassurance, or permission because you've built a relationship with your intuition. You've taken the time to understand your values, your boundaries, your pace, and when that self-trust grows, you stop seeking validation from people who don't understand your vision. You stop explaining yourself to those who aren't meant to walk your path. You simply continue walking with clarity and conviction. Focusing on yourself also brings emotional stability. When your happiness is based on other people, how they treat you, what they think of you, or how they're doing, you become reactive. Your mood goes up and down depending on circumstances you can't control. But when your focus is internal, your peace becomes independent. You stop relying on others for a sense of worth or direction. You begin to cultivate joy from within. You learn how to self-regulate. You know how to pause, how to reflect, how to reset. That kind of emotional discipline is what keeps you grounded, especially when life becomes chaotic. People often chase confidence by trying to prove themselves to others. But real confidence is built in solitude. It's built when you're alone, doing the work, showing up consistently even when no one is clapping. It's built when you look at your own progress and feel proud, not because someone approved of it, but because you know how hard you've worked. When you focus on yourself long enough, you stop needing to be seen. You simply need to be true to who you are, and that authenticity becomes unshakable. It doesn't bend under pressure. It doesn't shrink to fit in. It grows from within and radiates outward. Another thing that changes when you focus inward is how you handle setbacks. Instead of interpreting failure as a personal flaw or a public embarrassment, you see it as part of the process. You start to separate your self-worth from your results. You begin to treat mistakes as lessons, not labels. This mindset makes you resilient. It allows you to keep moving forward with curiosity instead of fear. It shifts your relationship with growth. You no longer expect it to be easy, but you know it's always worth it. When you keep your focus on yourself, you also begin to find your rhythm. You stop rushing. You stop comparing your timeline to someone else's. You stop feeling like you're always behind. Instead, you move in alignment with your own season. You give yourself permission to slow down when you need rest, to speed up when you feel momentum, and to pivot when something no longer feels right. You stop trying to control everything and start responding to what feels real, what feels right, and what feels like truth. Eventually, the outer world becomes less distracting because your inner world becomes more fulfilling. You don't need to compete, prove, or chase. You just need to keep showing up. Keep doing the work. Keep learning who you are. Keep becoming better than who you were. And as you continue to direct your focus inward, you'll notice that the more grounded you become in yourself, the less affected you are by everything outside of you.